Hi, welcome to Life Change Ministry. Hi, my name is Susan Jackson, author and founder of Life Change. And today we are going to be going over chapter 8 in the book of Revelation. I want to welcome you to being a part of this Revelation study with Life Change. Um, Thank you for plugging in. Thank you for supporting and liking this page. And if you do like this, if it gives you information that you do like, and if you know someone who may need it, please like and share. It helps me get up in the algorithms and it helps more people to see it. Thank you and welcome. Okay, so today what I'd like to do is just read over the text and then come back and hit some pinpoints as the Lord tells me to hit uh, the points. So we've already gone over chapter 7. We've already gone over chapter 6. We know that the six seals have started to be broken in chapter 6, but they're not complete. And then in chapter 7, it takes you to the 144,000 that are going to be sealed by God. Okay. So, like 4 and 5 kind of go together, I believe 6 and 7 kind of go together as well. And then here in chapter 8, boom, we open up the last seal of chapter 6. So this is where we're at. Go ahead and open up your Bibles if you can with me. And it says, "And when he had opened the seventh seal, there was silence in heaven about the space of half an hour. And I saw the seven angels which stood before God, and to them were given seven trumpets. And another angel came and stood at the altar, having a golden censer, and there was given unto him much incense, that he should offer it with the prayers of all the saints upon the golden altar which was before the throne. And the smoke of the incense which came with the prayers of the saints ascended up before God out of the angel's hand. And the angel took the censer and filled it with fire of the altar and cast it into the earth. And there were voices and thunderings and lightnings and an earthquake. And the seven angels which had the seven trumpets prepared themselves to sound. The first angel sounded, and there followed hail and fire mingled with blood. And they were cast upon the earth, and the third part of the trees was burnt up, and all the green grass was burnt. The second angel sounded, as it were a great mountain burning with fire, was cast into the sea, and the third part of the sea became as blood. And the third part of the creatures which were in the sea and had life died, and the third part of the ships were destroyed. And the third angel sounded, and there fell a great star from heaven, burning as it were a lamp, and it fell upon the third of part of the rivers, and upon the fountains of waters. And the name of the star is called Wormwood. And the third part of the waters became wormwood, and many men died of the waters because they were made bitter. 12. And the fourth angel sounded, and the third part of the sun was smitten, and the third part of the moon, and the third part of the stars, so as the third part of them was darkened, and the day shone not for a third part of it, and the night likewise. 13. And I beheld and heard an angel flying through the midst of heaven, saying with a loud voice, Woe, woe, woe to the inhabitants of the earth, by reason of the other voices of the trumpet of the three angels, which are yet to sound. And it stops there. So here it's clear that in 6 there are 7 seals, okay? And we've already established and we've already gone over what all those are, right? And here in chapter 8 it says, and when he had opened the seventh seal. So this is the last seal of chapter 6. There was silence in heaven about the space of half an hour. So the seventh seal is what? The seventh seal is space in heaven. It's completely quiet. Everything is quiet in heaven for about a half an hour. Okay? And the sealed scroll is introduced really in Revelation 5. And the seals are opened one by one up to the sixth seal in Revelation 6, right? Which we've already established. Now, the silence is striking. Some have seen it as breathing space, or that the angels are silent so the prayers of the saints can be heard, perhaps even the cry of the martyrs, right? This is Revelation 6, 9 through 11, when the martyrs cry out, How long, O Lord? Worthy and true, will you not avenge us and their death, right? More likely, the silence in heaven demonstrates a sober, awestruck silence at the judgments to come, now that the seals are off and the scroll can be opened. Silence in heaven for about a half an hour of silence. Could mean that everyone, all the angels, they're all in awe because of what all has taken place. Now, this is how we know that the tribulation has not started yet, because these things have not taken place yet. There was a huge, there's all kinds of things that happen in chapter 6 that just haven't happened yet. You know, uh, even the sixth seal in 6:12, it says, "And I beheld when he had opened the sixth seal, and lo, there was a great earthquake, and the sun became black as sackcloth of hair, and the moon became as blood. And the stars of heaven fell into the earth, even as a fig tree casteth her untimely figs when she is shaken of a mighty wind." Okay. "And the heavens departed as a scroll when it is rolled together, and every mountain and island were moved out of their places." This is chapter 6, guys. Chapter 6 is the beginning of the revelation, of the beginning of the tribulation. I'm sorry. So with this, we know that part of these first seals that are broken, every mountain is going to be moved out of their places. Now, some suggested them that a mountain can be a nation, right? But but I don't believe that's what this is speaking about here, right? I believe that in actuality, the earth is going to be shaking and every mountain and island are going to be moved out of their places, right? And the kings of the earth and the great men and the rich men and the chief captains and the mighty men and every bondman and every free man hid themselves in the dens and in the rocks of the mountains, and said to the mountains and rocks, "Fall on us and hide us from the face of him that sitteth on the throne and from the wrath of the Lamb." So they're going to know by this time, when all the mountains move out of its place here in Revelation 6, people are going to be running and they're going to be hiding in the dens, because they're going to know who it is. They're going to know that, the Antichrist is on the throne, right? And they just want to be hidden. They want to be hidden not only from the wrath of God, but hidden from the face of him that sitteth on the throne, right? And so then, boom, chapter 7 goes into 144,000 that are sealed with God's seal on their foreheads. And then 8, you open up the seventh seal, which you've already kind of established. And there's silence in heaven for a space of a half an hour, probably because the trumpets are okay. After that happens, the whole earth shaking and every mountain being moved from its place, I imagine. And then you see, there's silence in heaven because of all the severity of things that are happening. I mean, yes, there's going to be silence. There's a lot of things that are to come that are going to happen on the earth once these things take place, right? It's not a game. And that's what I just cannot, you know, instill until I'm blue in the face. Everyone says, "Oh, it's happened, this and that." I believe it hasn't happened just yet, because these things have not taken place yet. They haven't. Some of these things have not happened, right? We see the mark of the beast on the rise, but the mark of the beast isn't implemented until mid-trib, which I was really intrigued. Coming into chapter 9, we're given another timeline. We're given that 5 months. We're given a 5-month timeline in chapter 9, which is just incredible. But we're not there yet. We're not quite there yet. Okay. And so here we are. The trumpets are getting ready to be sounded. I imagine the silence, everyone is like, I don't want to say freaking out because it's heaven, but they're realizing, hey, this is really happening. And I imagine everyone getting in their places and getting ready to be dispatched and getting ready to make these things take place, right? Because God dispatches angels to earth and gets the angels to do his bidding, right? And so here in 3, it says, and I saw in 2, it says, and I saw the 7 angels which stood before God, and to them were given 7 trumpets, right? And the angel came and stood at the altar, having a golden censer, and there was given unto him much incense, that he should offer it with the prayers of all the saints upon the golden altar, which was before the throne. And the smoke of the incense, which came with the prayers of the saints, ascended up before God out of the angel's hand, right? And the angel took the censer, filled it with the fire of the altar, and cast it to the earth. And there were voices and thunderings and lightnings and an earthquake. So God's going to hear all the prayers of the saints are going to go up before him as a sweet smelling aroma, right? As we read in chapter 5. So to me, this is just confirming things that are taking place. It's like it's all intertwined together. It's intricately intertwined and woven together. It's like John is trying to write down everything that he sees that's taking place, right? And so here, the prayers of the saints, they're brought up before God as a sweet smelling aroma. And in the book of Psalms, it talks about your prayers being like incense before the Lord, right? And um And so some people believe that this angel, you have the seven angels that are holding the trumpets. But there's another angel, and this is the one that grabs the smoke from the throne room, from the fire. He grabs the smoke, right? Um, and he throws it down to earth. He takes the censer and fills it with fire of the altar and cast it unto the earth, and there were voices and thunderings and lightnings and an earthquake. So we already had an earthquake that moved every mountain here in 6. Okay, every mountain would be moved, and every island were moved out of their places here in 6:14. And then here is another earthquake here in 8:5. All right, where there's lightnings and thunderings and another earthquake here. And then 6, and the 7 angels which had the 7 trumpets prepared themselves to sound. So here are the 7 trumpet judgments. The first angel sounded, and there followed hail and fire mingled with blood, and they were cast upon the earth. And the third part of the trees was burnt up, and all the green grass was burned up. And the second angel sounded, as it were a great mountain burning with fire was cast into the sea, and the third part of the sea became as blood. And the third part, see, so both trumpets have blood as part of the judgment. The hail and fire mingled with blood. And then you have the mountain burning with fire was cast into the great sea, and the third part of the sea became as blood, right? 9, and the third part of the creatures which were in the sea and had life died, and the third part of the ships were destroyed. So also you're going to have 1/3 of the fish and the sea life die, right? And 1/3 of the ships are destroyed. So here you have 4 1/3s, right? You have 1/3 of the, I'll put them all down up here. You have 1/3 of vegetation burned, all green grass is burned. 1/3 of the creatures die in the sea. 1/3 of the ships destroyed. And there's one more. Um, that's 3. That's 3 1/3s right there. Uh, Forgive me. And it says, and the second angel sounded, as it were a great mountain burning with fire, was cast into the sea, and the third part of the sea became his blood. And the third part of the creatures which were in the sea and had life died. A third part of the creatures, that's what makes it 4. And the third part of the ships were destroyed. And the third angel sounded, and there fell a great star from heaven, burning as it were a lamp. It fell upon the third part of the rivers and upon the fountains of waters. And the name of the star is called Wormwood. And the third part of the waters became wormwood. And many men died of the waters because they were made bitter. Now, there is actually an asteroid called Wormwood. Can you believe that? There is an asteroid in the sky that travels. It's been traveling for centuries, called Wormwood, and it's explicit. It's going to hit the earth. It's going to hit, this Wormwood comet is going to hit the earth. It's going to hit the waters, right? And the fourth angel sounded, and the third part of the sun was smitten, and the third part of the moon, and the third part of the stars, so as the third part of them was darkened, and the day shone not for a third part of it. Now here we go, all these thirds. Now I'm gonna highlight them here. Check it out. And the fourth angel sounded, and the third part of the sun, you have the third part of the sun, the third part of the moon, and the third part of the stars, so as the third part of them was darkened, and the day shone not for a third part of it, and the night likewise. And I beheld and heard an angel flying through the midst of heaven, saying with a loud voice, Woe, woe, woe to the inhabitants of the earth, by reason of the other voices of the trumpet of the three angels which are not yet to sound. Boom. And then it stops. So here are five trumpets in chapter 8. Now, a third part of the moon and the sun being darkened, I came up with 16 hours. Now, don't ask me how I came up with 16 hours. I came up with 16 hours years ago in my study time, but I can't. So you have a 24-hour day. 16 hours of the 24 are going to be darkened because you have a third part of the day and a third part of the moon. So part of the day and the night, right? Um, and I beheld and heard an angel flying through the midst of heaven, saying with a loud voice, Woe, woe, woe to the inhabitants of the earth. Anytime I hear woes, I think of the prophet Isaiah. Isaiah was notorious for this word. Woe, woe unto them who do this. Woe unto them who do that. Okay. Let's go to some of my notes here. Okay, in considering how the seals and the trumpets relate to each other, some believe that they are poetic and repetitive. And John describes the same events with different words and details in both the seal and trumpet judgments. This is typical of John's method. He goes over the ground again and again, each time teaching us something new. There is more to the end than we can really take in. Every series of vision brings out new facets of it. Okay, now this is L. Morris in his commentary. And considering how the seals and the trumpets relate to each other, some believe they are sequential and that the seventh seal contains the seven trumpets and the seventh trumpet contains the seven bowls of judgment. Yet there are problems with a sequential approach. For example, are the people of Revelation 6, 5 through 15 through 17 mistaken about Jesus' return? They don't seem to be. But if the trumpets simply follow in sequence, okay, two it's hard to pin down this with certainty. All right. Now, the hail and fire followed, mingled with blood. Blood may indicate the color or a result of a phenomenon described here. We don't know if the hail and fire was red in color or if it brought forth red blood. But one way or another, this should be understood straightforward without escaping into creative symbolism. And the reason why we don't want to say that there's symbolism here is because everything else is accurate. Everything else is as it sounds. Like even here in 8:12, and the fourth angel sounded and the third part of the sun was smitten. There it was a third part of the sun went bye-bye, okay, and a third part of the moon was gone, okay, a third part of the stars gone, so as a third part of them was darkened. I mean, it's not using symbolism. So for when we go hell and fire mingled with blood, we're taking it literal as we don't know what this blood is. We don't know if it means blood of people who have been slain through all of this, or if it's actual blood that comes down with the hail and fire together, right? We know that the third part of the trees is burned up and all the green grass was burned up. And so we see, how do we know we're in birth pangs? We see the fires now. We see the fires starting due to drought, which drought is a sign of judgment. We see the fires. We see all these things happening today. There's fires all over the place. I remember back in 2018, as far back as 2018, fires in Canada. It was horrible. It was terrible. And then the fires moved into California, just started just terrible. And every year it seems like it gets worse and worse and worse. Now we have fires all over the US. Okay, all over the world, we're having fires. You know, And here in this particular trumpet, a third part of the trees and the grass will be consumed. So, um, Many wonder if it will happen through a phenomenon we know today, like nuclear war. It could happen with fallout, pollution, meteors, and so forth. These ideas are interesting and possible, but they should never obscure the essential truth. God brings judgment. He isn't a passive bystander. This is not nature taking its course. So, this isn't climate change. This is God's wrath. And did you know, I just recently heard too that there is a comet also, Apophis, which means wrath of God, that could potentially hit the earth in I think it's a 29. Is it 29, 2029? Um and how the earth, it's going to come so close to the earth that if it gets as close as NASA says it is, our gravitational pull that surrounds our earth can potentially move it on its course to cause it the next time it comes around, because it comes around once every 7 years, which is interesting, to hit us, right? And so these things are going to take place. These things haven't happened yet, guys. They have not happened yet. So if someone says, "Oh, we're living in this and this has already happened," no, these are signs to look for to ensure that the tribulation has started. Okay. And why am I saying that? Because there's so many people on YouTube and on the internet right now saying that it's already started, blah blah blah, blah, this and that, da 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 da. And if I'm wrong, God forgive me if I'm wrong, because the last thing I want to do is steer you wrong. Okay. But we all fall short. None of us are perfect. Right. But I'm trying my best to give you accurate information. All right. I don't want you to, you know, when you leave my page, I want you to know that there's still time. It hasn't yet happened. A lot of this stuff. But once it starts, that's it. There's no going back. Once the tribulation starts, that's why it's so imperative that we try as Christians as to hold back the spirit while we're here on earth. I believe it's our responsibility to be praying and to be in prayer and fasting and to try to hold back the spirit as much as we can for grace. For grace. I mean, because once it starts, that's it. I mean, there's going to be many things that are going to be destroyed. Mountains are going to be moved from their places. We're going to have objects hitting the earth, falling into the waters, making the waters unable to drink, making killing a third of the fish in the sea. We're going to have and then I believe wormwood hits the little rivers and the lakes and all these the other little beds of water, right? So, guys, this is chapter 8. Chapter 8. Rather quickly, I don't want to be here all day. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for plugging in. And stay tuned for chapter 9. It's coming soon. Thank you so much for supporting this page. Life Change Ministry loves you, and we thank you for your support. Please, if you know someone who needs to hear this, please like it and share it and get us up in the algorithms so other people can have an opportunity to read the truth. Thank you so much for your time, and you have a blessed. Take care.